So it's time to talk about Zack Snyder, right? So in this video, we're going to break it down into the good, the bad, and the devastating, and also the redemption. And let's just clarify, if you're here to defend Snyder from a bashing, this isn't that video. If you're here to pile on the Snyder bashing, this isn't that video. Let me show you. Here's my well-worn Release the Snyder Cut t-shirt from 2020. The Joseph Campbell quote on the back. What else have we got? Here's my art of the film, Batman v Superman. And then you all know I collect steelbooks, right? So we've got the Zack Snyder Justice League trilogy to go along with my entire DCEU steelbook collection. Every movie apart from Justice League, so obviously we don't talk about that. So yeah, I'm a huge Snyder fan. This isn't a pile on Snyder, it's objective. So if you're here for the Snyder pile-on, I'm sorry to say, this isn't it. But if you're a fan of all things DC and you like deeper discussions, not just the kind of rage baiting, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe if you're new and let me know what you think about Snyder's time at DC in the comments below. So the good, what went well. Zack Snyder brought a sense of myth and operatic scale to superheroes that no other filmmaker had even attempted at the time. Man of Steel reimagined Superman not just as the Boy Scout that we all know from the comics, but as a godlike figure trying to find his place in the world. Batman v Superman gave us the weary, paranoid Dark Knight Returns Batman that we'd seen in those comics but had never been done in live action. It had always been the origin or the younger Batman. And then Wonder Woman, her entrance stole the show. I still think about the hype around Wonder Woman 2016, 2017, what a great time that was. And the visuals in BVS particularly that just looked ripped straight from a graphic novel. And that mattered, right? For decades, superhero films had mostly been about accessibility, so the bright tones, the quippy dialogue, straightforward morality. And what Zack Snyder did, he flipped the script by asking, what if they really walked among us? His films dealt with the alienation, the fear, and the cost of having that power. Even if you didn't agree with Snyder's interpretations, he gave audiences something to debate. And for me, debate fuels fandom. There's a great quote, I think Kevin Smith said it, I'm not certain though, but someone said that the DCEU was like heavy metal and the MCU was like pop music. Most people like pop music, right? They like songs they know, they like singing along. But people that like heavy metal really love heavy metal. And I'm a DCEU fan, Snyder fan, and a metal fan, so I totally get that analogy. It's a great analogy, props to Kevin Smith. If he said it, I'm pretty sure it was him. And how Snyder did that, it was the slow motion and the palettes that he used, the desaturation, and using compositions on film that looked like paintings, and that created an unmistakable brand for him. So scenes like the first flight from Man of Steel, the Trinity standing against Doomsday, they're iconic scenes. Even if you critique his storytelling, can't deny those visuals. And the fans that he did win over became some of the most passionate in pop culture, right? Rallying for the Snyder Cut in a campaign that changed studio history. So the bad, why did Snyder's vision struggle? The real issue for me, not about Snyder's filmmaking, not about his vision. Warner Brothers wanted it both ways. They hired Snyder, they hired a director known for his distinctive style and his stylized filmmaking. Then they kind of balked when his work didn't fit the traditional blockbuster mold. So instead of backing up Snyder's tone, backing up what they actually signed up for, they second-guessed the results, they tried to change things, and in doing so, they set up the whole DCEU and Warner Brothers for this internal conflict. The clearest example of this is Batman v Superman. So Zack, he delivered a film that was deliberately dense, mythic, layered, but WB, they didn't want that. They cut 30 minutes of crucial connective tissue to shorten the runtime. The theatrical version just felt incoherent to a lot of people, while the ultimate cut showed what Snyder had intended to do all along. Add this to the studio's obsession with catching up to the MCU, and you had a franchise being rushed before it had even found its footing. Instead of gradually building towards the Justice League, Warner Brothers sprinted there, piling in characters and plot lines that I think they would have thrived if given time to breathe. If we'd have had a standalone Cyborg movie, that would have been incredible. If we'd got Aquaman before Justice League, the setup would have been so much better and the payoff even more. And how that was bad was the decisions didn't just hurt Snyder's films, they damaged trust with the audience. So, you know, if you were a fan at the time, I remember it well, the tug of war between filmmaker and studio, and the result was the inconsistent cinematic universe. Snyder's work became polarizing not just because of his vision, but because Warner Brothers, they wouldn't commit to it and they wouldn't let it evolve naturally. The devastating, the lasting impact on DC and the fandom. So Snyder's biggest legacy isn't just his films, it's the aftermath of what happened here, the collapse of the DCEU as it was originally envisioned, the years-long fight for the Snyder Cut, and the ongoing fractures in the fan base are all lasting effects of his tenure. His story is just as much about studio politics as it is about superheroes. And the fundamental mistake why this happened was Warner Brothers. The Warner Brothers leadership at the time, they placed the weight of an entire cinematic universe on a filmmaker with a bold but divisive style, then lost faith the moment mainstream audiences kind of pushed back. When BVS underperformed, executives, they panicked and Justice League became the breaking point. We all know, I don't want to go into too much, but we know Zack was dealing with personal tragedy at this time, the death of his daughter Autumn. Instead of giving him space and time, Joss Whedon was brought in to finish the film, and we all know what happened to the Justice League, the theatrical cut. It was gutted, stitched together, far removed from the original version, just a horrible Frankenstein of a thing. When what they should have done is they should have given it time, said, when you're ready to come back, this movie will be waiting for you, but we couldn't have that. We couldn't have execs not getting their bonuses for not releasing the film on time. It was all just devastating. That's why I've titled this The Devastating, because it really was. Then the WB regime at the time, they doubled down on the wrong lessons. Executives dismissed the release the Snyder Cut movement as a loud minority, trying to bury the idea that a more complete version of the movie existed. Ironically, this then only fueled the campaign. Over the years, the movement grew into one of the most organised and passionate final prizes in Hollywood history. And while it did eventually succeed, the Snyder Cut came out in 2021, it came with costs associated. The fractured fan base became more polarised, toxicity really took root. I remember them, was it like the Monday after the Snyder Cut came out, there was an interview that said, this isn't going anywhere, it's a storytelling cul-de-sac. And every new DC project then became judged against a ghost of the Snyderverse, a ghost of what could have been had we carried on down that road. The devastation isn't that Snyder failed, it's that Warner Brothers' mismanagement cost DC basically a decade of momentum, alienated casual audiences and left future creators walking on eggshells. At the same time, Snyder proved fans can move mountains and studios can't afford to underestimate them. Redemption, Zack's future and DC's new era. So today, Zack Snyder stands in a very different place than during his tenure at DC. After the turbulence with Warner Brothers, he found a creative home at Netflix, a studio that seems willing to let him swing big without second guessing. Army of the Dead is probably my favourite non-DC Snyder work, and it showed that he can craft like a crowd-pleasing blockbuster outside of superheroes. Rebel Moon was so ambitious, so visually spectacular. I enjoyed it. It didn't quite live up to the massive hype, but I still really enjoyed it. Now Snyder, he's building up to The Last Photograph, a really personal project for him. Passion project, war drama. He's been talking about that for years and years, so it's great that he's finally getting to bring that to life. And this all should matter because this stage of Zack's career is about control and about legacy. No longer tethered to the chaos of Warner Brothers executives, second guessing his every move, he's proving he can make projects on his own terms. And then at the same time, Warner Brothers has undergone its own transformation, so the regime that clashed with Snyder is gone. In its place is DC Studios, James Gunn, Peter Safran, who are building a new DCU with a clearer, more deliberate vision. Which then begs the question, right, could Snyder ever return to DC? For years that seemed impossible, but you know, in Hollywood, doors rarely stay shut forever. James Gunn has shown a willingness to embrace DC's past. He's brought back Viola Davis, he's brought back Joel Kinnaman, whilst also charting a bold new territory. If Zack Snyder ever stepped back into the DC fold, it wouldn't be to recreate the Snyderverse, but to direct a project within James Gunn's roadmap. Imagine Zack's tackling a movie about The Question, or his idea for a Ryan Choi Atom movie that will bring that to life. But the main lesson for me of Zack Snyder's journey is that redemption is always possible. So Zack's DC run is complicated. He gave us some of the boldest superhero imagery ever put on screen, but also some of the most divisive storytelling. And whether you loved his work or hated it, can't deny it reshaped comic books forever. The good, the bad, and the devastating. But what do you think? Should Snyder have been allowed to finish his version, or was the reset inevitable? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe for more deep dives into DC every week.